Hi everyone, so today we are going to be reading The Ugly Vegetable. So I want you to look at the cover and think about what you see and turn to your partner and talk a little bit about what you think is going on here. And then I'm going to call on you to see what you think. Okay, so has any of you ever gardened or planted before? Okay, a few of you guys. And what was it that you planted or gardened? Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna get started. So, in the spring, I helped my mother start our garden. We used tall shovels to turn the grass upside down, and I saw pink worms wiggle around. It was hard to work. When we stopped to rest, we saw that the neighbors were starting their gardens too. You see the pink worms? Hello, Irma, my mother called to Mrs. Coumarin. Mrs. Coumarin was digging too. She was using a small shovel, one that fit in her hand. Mommy, I asked, why are we using such a big shovel? Mrs. Coumarin has a small one. Because our garden needs more digging, she said. So why do you guys think their garden needs more digging? I helped my mother plant the seeds, and we dragged the hose to the garden. Hi, Linda. Hi, Mickey, I called to the Fitzgeralds. They were sprinkling water on their garden with green watering cans. Mommy, I asked, why are we using a hose? Linda and Mickey use watering cans. Because our garden needs more water, she said. So why do you think their garden needs more water? Then my mother drew funny pictures on pieces of paper, and I stuck them into the garden. Hello, Roseanne, my mother called across the street to Mrs. Angel Howe. Mommy, I asked, why are we sticking these papers in the garden? Mrs. Angel Howe has seed packages in her garden. Because our garden is going to grow Chinese vegetables, she told me. These are the names of the vegetables in Chinese, so I can tell which plants are growing where. So these are Mrs. Angel Howe's, and these are theirs. One day, I saw our garden growing. Little green stems that looked like grass and popped out from the ground. Our garden's growing, I yelled. Our garden's growing. I rushed over to the neighbor's garden to see if theirs had grown. Their plants looked like little leaves. Mommy, I asked, why do our plants look like grass? The neighbor's plants look different. Because they are growing flowers, she said. Why can't we grow flowers? I asked. These are better than flowers, she said. So what do you think is growing? Soon, all the neighbors' gardens were blooming. Up and down the street grew rainbows of flowers. The wind always smelled sweet, and butterflies and bees flew everywhere. Everyone's garden was beautiful except for ours. So here's everyone's garden, and then here's theirs. Ours was all dark, green, and ugly. Why didn't we grow flowers? I asked again. These are better than flowers, Mommy said again. I looked, but saw only black, purple, green vines, fuzzy, wrinkled leaves, picky stems, and a few little yellow flowers. I don't think so, I said. You'll wait and see, Mommy said. Before long, our vegetables grew. Some were big and lumpy. Some were thin and green, covered with bumps. Some were just plain, icky yellow. They were ugly vegetables. So how many of you like vegetables? Sometimes I would go over to the neighbors and look at their pretty gardens. They would show the popeyes, the peonies, the petunias to me, and I would feel sad that our garden wasn't as nice. So that's their garden, and that's everyone else's. One day, my mother and I picked the vegetables from the garden. We filled a whole wheelbarrow full of them. We wheeled them to the kitchen. My mother washed them and took a big knife and started to chop them. "Ay-yow," she said when she cut them. She had to use all her muscles. The vegetables were hard and tough. "This is a xiao hengu," Mommy said, handing me a bumpy curled vegetable. She pointed at other vegetables. "This is a shen sin. That's a toringhao." So here's all the vegetables they grew. And here's them cooking them. I went outside to play. While I was playing catch with Mickey, a magical aroma filled the air. I saw the neighbors standing on their porches with their eyes closed, smelling the sky. They took deep breaths of air like they were trying to eat the smell. So here it is. Here's the smell coming from her house. And all the neighbors wanting some. The wind carried it up and down the street. Even the bees and the butterflies seemed to smell the scent in the breeze. I smelled it too. It made me hungry, and it was coming from my house. When I followed it to my house, my mother was putting a big bowl of soup on the table. The soup was yellow and red and green and pink. This was a special soup, Mommy said, and she smiled. Good. The flavors of the soup seemed to dance in my mouth and laugh all the way down to my stomach. I smiled. "Do you like it?" Mommy asked me. I nodded and held out my bowl for some more. "It's made from our vegetables," she told me. Then the doorbell rang and we ran to open the door. This is what the soup looks like. All our neighbors were standing at the door holding flowers. "We noticed you were cooking," Mr. Fitzgerald laughed as he held out his flowers, "and we thought maybe you might be interested in a trade." We laughed too. My mother gave them each their own bowl of her special soup. My mother told them what each vegetable was and how she grew it. She gave them the soup recipe and put soup into jars for them to take home. I ate 5 bowls of soup. It was the best dinner ever. Sharing it with all their neighbors. Oh, and the dog. The next spring, when my mother was starting her garden, we planted some flowers next to the Chinese vegetables. Mrs. Coumarin, the Fitzgeralds, and the Angel House planted some Chinese vegetables next to their flowers. Soon, the whole neighborhood was growing Chinese vegetables in their garden. Up and down the street, little green plants poked out of the ground. Some looked like leaves and some looked like grass. And when the flowers started blooming, we could smell the soup in the air. The end. So, I want you guys to answer a few discussion questions. And you guys can talk to your partner about these and then get back to me. So first of all, what happened when Graceland thought that everyone else's gardens were better? Yep, so Graceland was sad. She thought that everyone's garden was going to be better than hers. She didn't understand why they weren't growing flowers. Was she happy when everyone wanted her special soup? Yeah, she was. She realized that her soup was special. And what happened next year when everyone was planting? Yep, everyone had a little piece of Chinese vegetables growing in their own gardens. So they had an opportunity to share their own culture with their neighbors. And this can go for anything in life. Sharing who we are in our culture and being who we are allows others to get to know us and have a greater understanding of who we are. And we can have that in our classroom as well. So, as an activity this week, everyone will be bringing in a little something from their own home. It can represent anything in your life, and throughout the week, we're going to talk a little bit and present what we brought from our homes. And then also, I brought a little bit of the vegetable soup with me today. It has a little recipe on the back telling me the ingredients and the recipe, which is super cool. The end.